Greetings, everyone, and welcome back. This is For Azeroth, a show all about Warcraft, with me, Garrett Weinzierl, and her, Jocelyn Moffett. Jocelyn, welcome back to another wow-tastic podcast.
Why, thank you, Garrett. I'm looking quite forward to it.
Which now I'm thinking we should have just named the damn show Wow-tastic.
That is a pretty fantastic name, although I really like For Azeroth, mostly because, hashtag Faz.
Yeah, we don't actually use the term Faz a lot on the show, and we probably should start because it makes me happy. It's a happy-sounding shortening.
We could call it Faztastic!
Oh, damn. When I find some more time, a t-shirt must be made. And it will have a lot of glitter. And
yes.
It just sounds like a Jocelyn word, something from the dictionary of Joss.
I do make up my own words a lot, guys.
So how is World of Warcraft treating you this week, Jocelyn? Because give everyone an update on last week when we talked about how behind we were. We're finally attuned for Karazhan.
Yes, we are. And I'm looking forward to running it because the other group that I've run with has been really busy. Obviously, we're ramping into the holiday season. You guys had Thanksgiving this past weekend. So my normal group has not been available to actually run. So we didn't actually make any progress on Karazhan. But my raid team last night did clear Emerald Nightmare again for the second time. So we're at least up to Trial of Valor now. So I think we're going to give that the first little poke on Wednesday. So yeah, it's been actually pretty quiet because I think of American Thanksgiving. I play with a lot of Americans on my team. I think there's only like 4 Canadians on my raid team. So
all right.
Yeah, it's been a pretty quiet week because everyone that I normally play with had like family or something.
Yeah, it tends to happen. We here, as you said, you guys, which I love. You refer to an entire nation. As you guys had Thanksgiving, like there's 3 of us, hanging out in a room somewhere.
Yeah.
We tend to take Thanksgiving pretty seriously, and it consumes usually the entire weekend around it, which that certainly was the case for me. I did got a little tiny bit of WoW in, but I was out of town, so I mostly had to play games that didn't require internet, like Civ 6. Which
oh my god, dude, is that not so good?
It's phenomenal. And as usual, it's just like I could just keep playing. When do I stop? When do I stop? Clearly, when I win,
Yeah, that was my problem. That was my first time sitting down and playing the game. 14 hours later, I was like, I won! Oh my god, it's 8 a.m.
Yep. But back to WoW, I did go and do the pre-Karazhan quests, hoping that the rest of our 5-man will be ready to go today. I'm not sure if they actually are or not, but good God, that pre-quest takes forever. I was expecting something shorter, and if I'm being honest, a little more exciting.
Yeah, so I blew through those quests right before because the whole rest of my group was attuned. So I had to do those pre-quests while they were kind of standing at the gate going, come on. So I barely even read the quest text, but it was basically like, go kill some dudes, go get some dirt or something. I don't know. It wasn't very, considering how spectacular a lot of the other quest lines have been over the course of Legion, that I don't even know why it was there. Once we got attuned, I kind of wish we'd just gone in. But again, like I said, I didn't read the quest text, so maybe there was some big significant lore reason, but it felt kind of silly, standing outside of Karazhan, knowing that the demons are taking it over on the inside. It's my Mass Effect 3 problem that I have with a lot of video games where it's like, oh my god, the big bad is here, the universe is dying, go catch 5 chickens. Wait, no, but save the universe. Don't I need to go?
Don't I need to go right now? Right now? Shouldn't
exactly.
we leave you guys? No, I would have. I felt like it would have been a good place for a big scenario of some sort, some type of big fanfare where we storm the gates of Karazhan or something, and make an opening, reestablish a foothold, and then Khadgar can stand outside the door and offer us a quest for yet another ring to get from Karazhan. I love that there is a quest to get a damn ring that I get from a dude standing outside the door, just like original Karazhan. That makes me happy. But I would have liked a little more fanfare. I mean, that trailer was cool, man. You saw Morose hanging outside, backstabbing people. How cool would it have been if we got attacked by Morose while walking through the ruined city outside, as opposed to going down into a vanilla textured dirt hole and killing some demons.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like that very much would have felt the same as a lot of things that they've done in Dungeons and Legion so far. I mean, we've had the Wrath of Ashara, we've had the Shade of Xavius. Like, since Morose is actually a boss within Karazhan, it would have had to been like the Shimmer of Morose or something. Like, it couldn't have actually been him. So then it would just be like, okay, again.
Well, you don't kill him; you just kind of fight him back, and he escapes or something. I mean, death is merely a setback, Jocelyn. If Warcraft has taught me anything.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. I'm not 100% sure actually did we totally finish our questing for Karazhan, or our dungeon attunement for Karazhan? Or I thought we had one left that we were going to run today.
We have one. Kyle and Kristen have one left, and I've been silently hoping that they kind of just did it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure they did, because they also had Thanksgiving, so
yeah,
might have to help them out with that.
But yeah, I do have at least one character anyway who's tuned for Karazhan, and I'm excited to get in there because it was a lot of fun. The 1 and I guess a half bosses that I did, because we just wiped over and over and over again. But it's fun, it's interesting, it's punishing. It's definitely a 5-man raid, which is an interesting experience for me. So I'm quite enjoying it actually.
Sweet. Well, let's talk about the news this week. It's a bit of a quieter news week. Probably will be through the holidays, although we are expecting one more Q&A before the break, so looking forward to that. But that hasn't come yet. But probably the biggest chatter around the subreddits, around the forums, around the fan sites and everything last week was that the legendary items, what we have come to calling the soft cap, has been removed. And what's probably more interesting to me than the fact that it's been removed is that Blizzard telling us it's been removed they've actually explained to us exactly what was happening before, because the WoW community, we were kind of having to guess about what the heck was going on with legendaries, because it seemed like once you had 4, you couldn't get any more. And apparently,
which is hilarious, because I still have 1 across all of my max level characters.
Yes, and that's actually a point that is brought up in the post by Blizzard, which is, we do want to stress that we're talking to a very small section of the player base here. The people that this was affecting, they said we're talking hundreds of players out of millions of players. So, tiny little group, however,
who already clearly had horseshoes up their butt because they had 4 legendaries on 1 character. So, talk about first WoW problems.
A lot of the language that's used in the post is saying that it was tied to players that put significantly more time into Legion than the rest of the World of Warcraft masses. Mm-hmm. That at a certain point, luck really has nothing to do with it, because as they kind of revealed in this, is that there is what we're referring to as bad luck protection, that the longer you go without not getting a legendary, the more the game leans in your favor to eventually give you a legendary.
And when we're talking about this bad luck protection, I mean, like, my hunter has been max level since day 2 of the expansion. And I have done every single emissary quest. I have run the start to finish profession quests for now 3 major professions, because I got rid of skinning and leatherworking and picked up some other stuff. So, I mean, I've done profession quests start to end, which involves lots of dungeons. I've done mythics. I've done, all kinds of everything on my hunter. I'm up to date on Suramar questing with her. I've been raiding with her. Like, I have done everything since day 2 of the expansion on my hunter and haven't gotten a legendary. So when we're talking about bad luck protection, this is like a character I play every day and always do my emissaries, and I'm usually killing 4 to 5 bosses a day of one sort or another, and I haven't gotten a legendary. So bad luck protection is still very minimal.
Yes. Yeah, but I did want to bring that up because they mentioned it. But basically the way that the system previously worked was that it would just keep increasing your chances of getting a legendary until you got it, and then it would reset that. And then every time you didn't get a legendary, it'd start accruing again until you got another legendary, it would reset. And the way that they had built it was that once you had gotten 4 legendaries, the bad luck protection system no longer applied to you. It just went away. You never got this increasing chance for a legendary again, past 4. So what they have done is they've removed that. Bad luck protection now applies to everyone, regardless of how many legendary items you have received. And the other big point they wanted to make was apparently, I guess, what spurred them to finally make a change and finally kind of come out and disclose more about how the legendary system worked was that threads started popping up where people started theory crafting on whether or not they should delete legendaries if they have received 4 and some of them are less than optimal for their class or for the spec that they were pursuing. And they said, A, no, why would you do that? And B, that's not how it works. It's based off of how many you have received, not how many you currently have. So if you went and deleted a legendary, it was for nothing.
I don't understand who would think that the game works like that all of a sudden Blizzard would have no idea what you had received if I think it's deleted it.
I think it's a fair line of logic, personally. I think if you're looking at multiple players, Blizzard even said hundreds of players. I don't know how many of them were actually being vocal, in the forums and whatnot, but if you're looking at multiple players, all of which who have sunk just an obscene amount of time, have done an obscene amount of dailies, an insane amount of rating, yada, 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 and they're all sitting on 4, and Blizzard's not saying anything, you're left with, what other recourse are you left with? You have to think about something. You have to try and understand how the system is, because they specifically weren't telling us how it worked. And they said that it was intentional. They wanted legendaries to have an air of mystery surrounding them, but they also said, "Hey, maybe we learned that we should go about this a different way in the future."
Mm-hmm.
So,
but even then, a soft cap, as people have been calling it, of 4. Still, how many legendaries are there per spec per class? Like, I'm pretty sure that as a Ret Pally, I might have 6, and as a Holy Pally, I feel like it's even less. So if you're getting 4 legendaries for your spec, then you've pretty much collected them all anyway.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who, like you, didn't know that you had to be in the current spec when they got their first one, so one of them might just be total garbage for them because it's not even a spec they usually play, or the spec that they raid in, or the spec that they PvP in, whatever the case is. There's a million and one different little caveats that could really screw your day. If this is something you're excited about and you want to get a specific legendary, so
that is true.
I understand that.
If you're playing in 2 different specs, you can have 2 slots for legendaries, so that would be 4 legendaries. And if you're getting less than optimal ones, then that makes sense.
Exactly.
Because on my Pally, I got the Ret Cape, which is the best Paladin. Retribution Paladin legendary, so there is that little at least I got the good one. but yeah, it's not for the spec that I play. Most of the time I play as Holy, so
yeah. So anyways, that's what's going on. There's no more soft cap. It's gone. The bad luck protection is there no matter how many legendaries you've gotten, you horrible people who are extremely lucky and I'm jealous of. So enjoy that. Don't delete your legendaries. Shouldn't have ever, by the way, but definitely don't do it now. So anyways, moving on. This piece of news is selfish, and I just wanted to talk about it. The Soul Takers World Boss went live last week, and they brought in with them a long-awaited Death Knight artifact appearance that has previously you haven't been able to get. It's been data mined. Us Death Knights have been wondering how the hell to get it for a while now, and it turns out from the Soul Takers. And it appears to be a guaranteed asterisk drop for Death Knights, because some Death Knights are not getting it, but again, I haven't been able to find a concrete answer, and it doesn't appear that Blizzard has any interest in giving us one, but it appears to be tied to Valorshar rep. The thing is, no one's 100% sure what level it's at. I'm at Honored. I did receive this. You get what is it? I forget the exact name.
Thrice Accursed Compass?
No, that's a trinket you get.
Oh.
The Runes of Darkening. That's what drops off, and it gives you the Dark Rune Blade appearance for your Frost Death Knight artifact weapon. Looks like old school Naxxramas, actually. I really dig it. But, it seems to be tied to Valorjar.
I raided with a Death Knight last night who had this, and I was just I just looked at him, and I was like, dude, you're really, fell looking, because he had the green variant of it.
Yes.
And I was just like, man... That's kind of odd.
Yeah, the green version is the one you start with. And then you need to go and do a ton of dungeons with it to unlock the rest of the appearances. But it's sweet looking. It appears to be tied to Valarjar rep. I'm only honored, and I got it, and that's what everyone seems to think. There's a couple reports that people who were friendly got this to drop. But if you're listening to this, the boss is probably already swapped over, and you're out of luck if you haven't already gotten it. But next time it comes around, the Soul Takers are where you get your Dark Runeblade appearance for Frost Death Knights. And also, it's a world boss. They drop plenty of other goodies. These guys drop belts, which I did not get and I was hoping for because it would have been an eye level upgrade. But
one of the actually really cool things about hidden artifact appearances, for those of you who play multiple specs on the same character, if you have a very easy to get hidden artifact appearance on one of your specs, then it's a good idea to go and get it, because then you can complete basically all the things that you have to do to unlock all the different variants of it. You can go and unlock, I think one of them is like do 200 world quests with your hidden appearance equipped. So if you say go and do that, then when you switch specs, it will actually be available to you in your other spec, even though technically you haven't unlocked the first hidden appearance in the line. So you could get your hidden appearance without actually like getting a drop.
Oh, I didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah, once you unlock one of those slots, it unlocks for all of your specs. It could be a bug. I'm sure it's probably not working as intended, but as of literally recording right now, that's how it is still working. So
it might be,
you can get a hidden appearance without actually getting your hidden appearance.
All right. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if it's like a grind-proof mechanism, but nonetheless. And then also we got a hotfix last week. It's a week old. It's a lot of very specific tweaky bits, but if you haven't gone and checked it out, there might be things in here that interest you. Like, hey, as a Death Knight, Purgatory now works in the Withered Army training scenario. You know, that thing that I love to do in this game.
One really interesting thing that came out of the hotfixes was actually a fix to Helia in the Trial of Valor, which is the 3-boss mini-raid that's in between the Emerald Nightmare and Nighthold. And basically what happened was Helia has a big breath attack that does a lot of damage. And if your tank died while in the breath, she would essentially stop casting. So that was actually part of the strategy that a lot of the Mythic raid teams were employing in order to get their or attempt to get their world first kills. And so they were exploiting this, and it ended up being a bug. And there were actually 3 of the 5 teams that got their Mythic kill. They were actually stripped of their status and banned. So temporarily banned, I believe, but for exploiting this bug. So that has now been hot fixed. So, and I mean, I don't know about you, Garrett, but I watched the Method world first Helia kill. Oh my God, that fight is insane.
I have not watched it. I did read about the bans and everything that hit a couple of raiding groups, but I am excited to finally get there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And Manny in the chat room is saying that it is an 8-day ban. Yeah, so it was temporary, and I believe those bans went out like I want to say Wednesday or Thursday. It was kind of mid last week, so I'm sure it'll be over at the end of this week probably. But
I gotta say, I feel bad for the teams on the ban side. I don't think they should still get world first credit, but banning them for like a week, man, it's Blizzard's fault that the bug's in the game.
Well, yeah, so Method was the one who got world first. So the other 4, or 3 of the other 4 who exploited the bug and were banned for 8 days, they were stripped of their realm first kills. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I find this really funny because these are clearly people who are taking the game extraordinarily seriously. They are the best of the best when it comes to PvE content. And every response that I saw, and this may not have been every single player, but at least every like official response from the guilds who had the temporary ban, all of them were very gracious and said, yep, we knew it was an exploit. We knew we shouldn't have done it, but we figured if we were racing for world first and everyone else was doing it, it was something that we had to do. So they all agreed with the ban and said, yep, okay, we get it. We broke the rules. We didn't actually basically we didn't win fair and square. So we understand, and yeah, they were very accepting of their ban, whereas versus like anytime I've ever seen any ban in any other Blizzard game, everyone's always up in arms about how unfair it is that they got banned. And these guys are just like, nah, yeah, it's cool. We get it. I'm just wow. That was very gracious.
That I get too. I mean, it is a risk you have to take, right? I mean, if more teams were doing it, got Realm first because of it, and Blizzard didn't take action, then they missed out. So that's why I just think it's like just take a while the Realm first. Ban them for a day if you really have to give a ban. A week long, it's like whatever. It's a bug. It's a game. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But nonetheless, and now if you exploit bugs in a PvP game, you're actually the devil, and you should be permabanned. But it doesn't. I've never gotten too much of a anything in my craw over PvE exploitation. So
anything in your craw? What?
Yeah, I grew up in Florida with a bunch of retirement homes and old people. Deal with it, Jocelyn.
Okay.
Deal. And then finally, there was a bug with the Kirin Tor World quests that has been fixed. And if you were doing the quest that day, you got a free emissary quest.
It's actually so the Kirin Tor quest doesn't expire until tomorrow morning. So that is November 29th. Tuesday is when it actually expires. So you didn't even have to be questing that day. You can just, if you log in, your emissary is automatically completed. So it's basically free rep.
Oh, fantastic! I thought you had to be in on the day that this bug came into question.
No, there's actually, so the problem is there's either impossible to complete world quests for the Kirin Tor, or the problem, which is the problem that I had, is that you don't have enough Kirin Tor quests available in order to actually finish the emissary quest. And it had to do with a lot of tweaking that they did. I believe we covered it on like episode 1 or 2 of this show. A lot of the tweaking that they did around like how often world quests show up and stuff like that, and how Kirin Tor were supposed to be special and fun, and they were coming up too often. Well, whatever tweaking they did totally borked the system. So they basically just, if you log in while this specific Kirin Tor emissary quest is active, you will auto complete it. You just have to, I believe, complete one world quest. Doesn't have to be a Kirin Tor one. It's basically just completing one world quest will be kind of the trigger for it to update your emissary status, and then your Kirin Tor will auto complete. So you just then have to go and turn it in Dalaran. So you basically get 1,500 rep for finishing Kirin Tor quests, or 750 rep with the Nightfallen. You get to choose one of the 6 Legion factions. So guys, it's free rep. If you do nothing else, log in and do one world quest and get your Kirin Tor stuff done today, because it's a pretty big boost, especially for something like the Nightfallen, which that's a grind and a half, and a lot of your story content is hidden behind that rep grind. So get in there. Well, get her done.
Did you really just say get her done?
I did.
The Canadian host just say get her done. All right, just making 100% sure. Well, speaking of the Kirin Tor, that brings us to our lore discussion for today, because Jocelyn, you want to get your teach on as far as the Kirin Tor, the keepers of magic are concerned.
So the Kirin Tor, I kind of thought that we'd been having some bigger, longer lore sessions, and the Kirin Tor, obviously, since they are basically the builders and keepers of Dalaran, they're right there in the middle of all of this. So I thought it would be something good to cover this week. Actually had some help from you guys on Twitter, so thank you very much for suggesting all the different lore things that you want to see me cover. Unfortunately, you guys, man, you have a lot of demands, so it's going to take a while for us to get to them all. But I do love when you guys actually let us know what you want to hear about, because that helps me a lot. I love Warcraft lore so much that it's just like I have too many ideas every week, and trying to narrow it down is becoming really difficult for me, especially with the conversation we had last week about just the formation of the universe and the Titans and the old gods. And, there's so many cool topics in and around that time period that we really, even if you play the game, you don't know a whole lot about, because it's, hidden in books and it's not part of our main World of Warcraft storyline. It's not even part of any of the previous RTS titles. So, it's a lot of lore that people don't necessarily know. So that also makes it kind of difficult to chunk out and say, like, we're going to talk about this week. So, but you guys had a lot of good suggestions. So please do, if you have a lore suggestion for the show, either email us or tweet me, tweet Garrett, tweet somebody, and let us know what you want to hear about, because this is your show. So I want to cater to you guys. But with all that in mind, we are going to talk about the Kirin Tor today and exactly who they are, where they came from, and what they're up to. So as I mentioned, Dalaran has been home to the Kirin Tor since it was formed by humans and high elves during the decline of the Arathorian Empire. So basically what happened was there was this big empire of humans, and then it basically declined, split apart, as a lot of empires do. And then other factions were formed, including things like the city of Gilneas, during the decline of that empire. And so the high elves essentially went to the humans because they had realized that there were some powerful magic wielders, and they wanted to kind of give them some guidance. So that was the formation of the Kirin Tor, was the humans and high elves. And then they built the beautiful city of Dalaran. And I mean, even with the updates that we got in Legion to Dalaran, man, it is probably like my favorite city. What about you, Garrett?
I'm a large fan of Dalaran, but my favorite city goes to Silvermoon.
Oh, right. See, I don't hardly ever spend any time in Silvermoon.
Neither do I, but every now and then I go back. But no one's ever there except creepy RPers saying things I don't need to hear. So
they are very similar, though, because, again, both of those cities are very elven in their design, right? And that comes from high elves are, builders of both of those cities. So basically, we've got Silvermoon, which, funny enough, is really golden red, but we've got Silvermoon, and then Dalaran, which has all its arcane purpley silvers, kind of. Oh God, it's so pretty.
Yeah, it's a mix of the human and the high elf aesthetic, which I dig because I'm a big fan of Stormwind as well. As I've mentioned on the show before, I spent the first many years of World of Warcraft as an Alliance main, so Stormwind holds a very special place in my heart. So does Darnassus, but again, if I have to pick one, if I could pick one city, it's Silvermoon. So there is that.
Fair enough.
And I think it's important to mention, because I'm sure there are some listeners who, like you, came in after Lich King, but Dalaran wasn't always floating. It used to be on the ground in the Alterac Mountains.
It did, right across the lake from Lordaeron, which is now currently in-game Undercity. So that's why when you are actually in Eastern Kingdoms, there's a big, gigantic crater, which we'll get to a little bit later. But the Kirin Tor basically are this sect of mages, and they are responsible for categorizing, cataloging, and researching every spell, artifact, and magical item known to mankind currently. No big deal. But they are essentially the keepers of magic on Azeroth as far as the mortal races are concerned. Obviously, there's the blue dragonflight who kind of look down their noses at the Kirin Tor a little bit, but again, we'll get to that a little bit later. But as far as the mortal races are concerned, the Kirin Tor are kind of the best of the magic wielders. They've always had one leader, but they're governed by a council of 6 who meet in the Chamber of Air, which anytime you've seen any kind of description of it, it's really, really freaking cool. And I'm kind of upset in Legion that they didn't actually take us to the Chamber of Air, because it's essentially like the Council of 6 are shrouded in mystery, and it basically looks like time lapse of like weather effects and stuff. Okay. It's like once you go into the chamber, it's like just constantly changing and everything, like, so you have no idea where it is, what time it is, it's very disorienting, but also like very hauntingly beautiful sort of thing. Yeah. So when they had the council vote in Legion, we didn't actually get to go to the Chamber of Air, and I was like, dang it.
Did we get a representation of that in the Warcraft movie? Is that where Khadgar went to, where he spoke to the council?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
So not as cool looking in the movie. It's cool looking in the movie. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. It's not dead on what you just described. And also, if you are confused about the whole Dalaran needs to be in the ground thing, they just ignored that bit of lore entirely in the film because cities floating in the air look cooler, and I agree with them.
Yeah. So then their one leader and their council of 6, basically, like I mentioned, they represent the most powerful human mages in the world. But unfortunately, they were unable to stop Arthas and the destruction of Dalaran that followed as his scourge marched through Lordaeron.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Arthas greater than Kirin Tor. Team Arthas, baby, all the way.
Oh, you're such a fanboy, man.
Yeah, it wasn't just Arthas though. Like, he stole some important stuff and he summoned a pretty badass demon that destroyed Dalaran.
He did. So he used the spellbook of Medivh and Kel'Thuzad, who actually was a former member of the Kirin Tor. So there are a lot of people that think that since he was a former member of the Kirin Tor, that basically they reap what they sow and kind of deserve the destruction, because obviously a lot of civilizations were really hurting post-Arthas, post-Scourge. So, there was not a lot of love for the Kirin Tor as a result of that. But Arthas summoned Archimonde to Azeroth, who we've seen, I think, 3 times now, I think.
That sounds right to me as well. But yeah, he made a really fancy sandcastle, destroyed it, and Dalaran fell.
So Archmage Antonidas, who was the leader of the Kirin Tor at the time, was actually killed during the battle at Dalaran. And so after Arthas and the Legion left the ruins, so after everybody left, there's a big fight, Dalaran destroyed, the Kirin Tor actually returned to rebuild the city. And they erected a powerful barrier around the city that would kill anyone who touched it. So if you if you're playing in Legion right now, if you think it's basically the same sort of idea as what was around Suramar City, this big, huge dome of magic that was just like, nope, nobody allowed in, which kind of makes me wonder, like, did they not think to just do this to the Scourge? Like, just put this big, giant barrier around the city and then they just run into it and die? If
I was writing the lore, I would write around that by saying it takes some time to create a barrier of that effect and that they showed up too quickly.
that could be.
But yeah, and this, you could go and see this in World of Warcraft up until Wrath of the Lich King. So in Vanilla and Burning Crusade, if you went to the Alterac Mountains and you went to the other side of the lake across from Lordaeron, there was this big pink bubble around a crater where Dalaran once stood. And you can also now go there and just see the crater that used to house Dalaran.
You can also be ported there by mages who think that they're funny.
Yes, you can. Because if you've never had this happen to you, it spawns you in the middle of the air. And you fall.
The portal, when you hover over it, does technically say the Dalaran crater. But if you have a mage friend in your raid who's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll totally port everybody back to Dalaran, and you click on the portal because you're a trusting soul, then, yeah, you end up above the Dalaran crater. And then previous to Legion, you would die from the fall. But now you just take, I think it takes like 95% of your health. You survive with a sliver. So thank you, mages. You're hilarious. Ha ha ha.
Canadian racial passive, too trusting, dies to Dalaran crater.
Oh my god. So after the rebuilding was complete, the mages actually lifted the entire city, leaving behind the crater that Garrett was talking about. And they relocated to the Crystal Song Forest in Northrend, where the Kirin Tor reached out to their old allies, who were the elves, in order to help them defeat the aspect of magic himself, Malygos. So we haven't talked. We will do a lore episode on the aspects and basically their creation and everything else. So, but we've talked about Ysera before. We talked about Deathwing before.
You can also go. I was going to say, if folks wanted to go back and listen to the Embrace of Spoilers we did, if you look up the Azuna one, we talked quite a bit about the Blue Dragon flight there.
We did, yes, that's true. So Malygos was the head of the Blue Dragonflight, which was essentially the dragonflight which was responsible for magic on Azeroth and for the basically correct usage of magic. And they were protectors of the world, and that was the portion that they were meant to protect. So Malygos essentially believed that spellcasters were the source, mortal spellcasters were the sources of all of Azeroth's problems. And so he essentially was attempting to eliminate all of them. And a lot of this comes from the War of the Ancients, because like we've talked about a couple times now, the Highborn of the Night Elf Society were responsible for summoning the Legion to Azeroth in the first place. The battle against the Legion was when Deathwing became corrupted, and the reason that they believed that they had to help him create the Dragon Soul was in order to defeat the Legion. So a lot of Malygos's problems and isolation and insanity would have been avoided had it not been for all of these mortal spellcasters and all of their reckless abandon and use of magic. So he basically was just like, all right, that's it. Kill them all. He went very genocidal. So basically the Kirin Tor and the elves and their allies ended up defeating Malygos. Unfortunately, that involved killing the blue dragon, which sad face. But after his defeat, the elven population of Dalaran was split into the Sun Reavers, who were the Blood Elves, and the Silver Covenant, who were the High Elves. And the Covenant were opposed to the admission of the Blood Elves into the Kirin Tor, but were eventually overruled because their leader, Verisa, didn't actually have any sway in Dalaran. And so the Sun Reavers were admitted into the Kirin Tor, and that had very grave consequences for the Kirin Tor and for the Alliance. So after the fall of the Lich King, Jaina, who had been a student of Antonidas and the Kirin Tor's new leader, Ronan, had urged the neutral Kirin Tor to aid her city of Theramore against the Horde's military advances. So basically, the Horde was being extraordinarily forward in their press of their war with the Alliance. They were taking new territories, and they were kind of pushing into neutral ground. And part of that included the area around Theramore. So Jaina had asked for the Kirin Tor to help her, and normally they remain neutral, but the vote actually went in her favor, and the deciding vote at the Council of Six was actually cast by a Blood Elf who, if you guys aren't aware, Blood Elves are actually members of the Horde, but
not always. But
not always, but usually are members of the Horde. Aethys? Sunreaver?
That's how I've always pronounced it. I've never heard it spoken, so.
I know. I don't think I've ever actually heard it spoken either. He's in a whole bunch of quest texts, and you can see, he's all over the place in Lich King, but I don't think I've actually heard it spoken out loud, because that was kind of pre a lot of voice acting.
Yeah, I would give it a softer A, though, because Kael'thas, maybe it's Aethos.
Could be. Anyways, I'll just call him Sunreaver. Cast the deciding vote to go and help Theramore. And so one of the Blood Elves who was actually present in Theramore, he was a member of the Kirin Tor, Thalon Songreaver, betrayed the Alliance and the Kirin Tor by allowing the Horde to break through the gate that he was meant to defend, which eventually led to the defeat of Theramore. He was rescued and was safely out of the city when the mana bomb that he designed was dropped on the city, which killed everyone there, including Ronan, who happened to save Jaina by pushing her through a portal at the very last second. This is actually the point in Jaina's history where her beautiful long blonde hair turns white because of the force of the explosion and the magic from the mana bomb that was dropped on Theramore.
One of the few Warcraft novels I have actually read to completion. This is intense. I wish more of it had played out in the game itself, because there was a Theramore scenario in Cataclysm.
In Pandaland.
Pandaria, that's what it was. Pandaland, as Jocelyn likes to refer to it as. But it didn't really get any of this drama subtext.
No, because I think the problem with the scenarios in Mists of Pandaria is that when you queue into a scenario, you're not actually seeing it from your faction's perspective. You're seeing it from, if you're a human and you queue into the Theramore scenario, you're going to be changed into one of the Horde characters. So you basically experience it from one perspective. And like you say, Garrett, the Alliance perspective is really lost in the scenario, even from the Horde perspective. I mean, and I understand why they did it, because it was basically setting up the idea that the Horde didn't actually know what Garrosh was doing and didn't support the bombing of Theramore. So it did have a purpose in that, the Alliance got to see the Horde side of it too. And, the whole idea is, not all the Horde are evil. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you didn't get to see a lot of the stuff that you actually get to read in Tides of War. So you don't see Jaina's perspective. And I think that basically does her a disservice, because now, even though you're like, yeah, okay, we bombed your city, you don't actually know everything that happened to her. And so now she just seems like a giant bitch for almost no reason.
The big thing for me is Ronan. Like, Ronan's death taking place pretty much outside of the game, because you just don't see it. It's not, there's no fanfare, there is no spectacle around the death of Ronan whatsoever. In game, and to me that's one of the biggest things that has happened in the game that I'm just so surprised to this day that they never did more with.
I agree.
Especially looking at the launch of Legion, I mean, the death of multiple leaders is handled, I think, rather well. I know that you think that Vol'jin got the shit end of the stick while Varian went out like a badass, and to a certain degree, yes. However, that cinematic where he names Sylvanas War Chief is fantastic.
Yeah, I feel bad for Alliance players who didn't get a post Broken Shore cinematic on their side, because I feel like a cinematic of Varian's funeral would have been very helpful.
It would have been also moving as all get out. The best tribute we've gotten to Varian's death came from Heroes of the Storm at BlizzCon.
Yes, that's so true.
Freaking beautiful. But yeah, that's the thing. I think Ronan's death should have been, I think, a bigger deal in the game itself, and not just taking place in a fantastic Krista Golden novel. But
I agree, because Ronan is actually a huge character. He is a contemporary of Jaina, but actually went back in time through a rift controlled by the Bronze Dragonflight to basically help in the War of the Ancients, because of, I believe, the Infinite Dragonflight was trying to mess with things and trying to make it so that the Legion actually won the War of the Ancients. So, I mean, his character goes all the way back, and Ronan is very key in the War of the Ancients, as well as then 10,000 years later. He's the leader of the Kirin Tor, the husband of Varisa. He does all kinds of stuff. Like, if you read pretty much any novel by Richard Knack, Ronan is pretty much his key character. He's the one that gets written the most often. I think he's in the War of the Ancients trilogy, and then probably another 3 or 4 books after that. So there is a considerable amount of lore around Ronan, and he has been just central to so many stories on Azeroth. So you're right, Garrett, to kill him, but not even give him something like a cinematic or something was definitely a disservice, because he was a huge character.
Yeah. And also, I mean, the most important thing about Ronan, the biggest thing about him, is that he's the only golden legendary that I have.
I have the Golden Black Knight, so take that.
All right. Well, you probably actually might play him more than I play Ronan, so.
Poor Ronan.
Poor Ronan.
So after his death, Jaina actually replaced Ronan on the Council of Six, and also as the leader of the Kirin Tor, and purged the Horde from Dalaran. And that was actually as a result of the Sun Reavers aiding Garrosh to steal the Divine Bell from Darnassus in Mists of Pandaria. So she continued her campaign against the Horde, and even warned Khadgar not to allow them on any Kirin Tor grounds while in Draenor, but he just totally ignores her and works with both the Alliance and the Horde while tracking down Garrosh and taking on the Legion on Draenor. And when they return back to Azeroth, Khadgar and the Kirin Tor realize that the world's in peril, and they relocate the floating city to the eastern kingdoms above Karazhan. Eventually, it would move to the Broken Isles to better deal with the threat of the Legion, which I've got to say, I love the idea of just like basically Dalaran being this like floating base of operations, like almost spaceship-like, like, oh, we're needed over there. All right.
I'm trying to imagine like the equivalent, like when my country goes to war, we just displace New York City and use it as a staging ground. Or when Canada, I don't know, does something cool, they displace Toronto.
Which is funny, because Toronto is actually not even the capital of Canada. But actually, I guess New York isn't either the capital of the States. But anyways, a lot of people think that Toronto's capital. It's not.
I was just thinking of big cities.
So after working with the Horde and Draenor and seeing the destruction that the Legion brought with its return, Khadgar wanted every advantage possible in the coming war. So he calls for a vote in the Council of Six to allow the Horde back into Dalaran. And this is when Jaina just throws a total shit fit because she loses the vote 4-2. And so she abandons her role as leader of the Kirin Tor, and Khadgar takes over. So currently, the Kirin Tor are exploring the Broken Isles, attempting to harness long-lost magics with the help of the heroes of the Alliance and the Horde to aid in the fight against the Burning Legion. So that's where things stand right now. Khadgar is the leader. He took her spot on the Council of Six, I believe. The only other member that I am familiar with on the council is actually Kalik, who's the blue dragon.
Oh, Caligos.
Caligos, yeah.
Yes. Who at one point was romantically tied to Jaina. No longer is, correct?
And I don't really know what's going on with them now, because in War Crimes, they were very clearly still together and working through their problems because Jaina was, a dark pile of anger. But they were working through their problems. And then, she abandons her role as the leader of the Kirin Tor, and I don't actually know where she went. We on the Horde side haven't seen anything of Jaina past that vote allowing us back in Dalaran. So I don't know if the Alliance actually knows where she is or if she's just basically disappeared. But Caligos is just chilling and doesn't seem to be that worried. So
there comes a point in every relationship when you just get pushed too far and you're just like, let them do their thing.
Yeah.
But can you blame her? Can you really blame her? I mean, hashtag Kindy Sparkshine forever.
Yeah. I understand. And I think that Jaina and her story, and this is actually kind of the problem with our lore segments, is that there are a lot of characters like Jaina and like, say, Arthas and like Ronan, who have so many stories tied to them, and they've been through so much throughout the history of Warcraft that it becomes really hard. Like, it basically has to be like multi-part series of the show. Like, we'd have to take a whole month to cover Jaina. So, I think that the Jaina discussion is probably one for another episode. But I understand where she's coming from. But I would have liked to see the arrival of the Burning Legion as, the point where she goes, okay, we have to come together, put past things aside. I understand Garrosh was not the Horde, not the same. So we'll move forward. But she takes the angry emo kid route and just abandons everyone in their time of need. So,
well, we have enough mages that, put the good of the many ahead of everything else, like Khadgar. I don't think we need all our mages to be goody two-shoes. I think it would be homogenous and boring. And I'm personally still interested in where they are taking Jaina, and I'm curious to see where it goes. So there is that. I'm also just finding out, because I was trying to remember the name of her apprentice that died. Holy crap! Did you know that we get to see an image of Kindy when her dad turns the lights on when Dalaran enters the night phase in Legion? I did not know that. That is heartwarming.
Yeah, that's his job in Dalaran, because obviously there are different levels, different jobs. Like, it runs like a normal city. The Kirin Tor runs like a normal organization. There's, top of the ladder with Khadgar, bottom of the ladder. And Kindy's father's job is to go around the city and light the lanterns. And so he does so with an image of his daughter, which is a heartwarming tribute.
That's adorable. I will have to pay attention to that the next time the lights get lit in Dalaran.
The lights in Dalaran light for Kindy.
Yeah. And as far as us covering Jaina, I feel like she's going to come up many, 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 many more times, even if she isn't the main focus of the discussion. If we do a Ronan focus, he will come up. If we do an Arthas focus, she will come up. If we do a Garrosh focus, she will come up.
Yep.
A lot of people to talk about that involve Jaina in some way, shape, or form. But let's take an email and wrap this up, shall we?
Absolutely.
As always, folks, you can send your emails to amovetv@gmail.com. Make sure to include WoW somewhere in the subject line. Makes it a lot easier to pull it out of there. And our email today comes to us from a Swedish fan called Jonas. And a Swedish fan called Jonas writes, "Hello there, Garrett and Jocelyn. I know you've already mentioned this phenomenon, but my personal WoW experience is unfortunately suffering greatly from the fact that the main quest lines require you to run mythic dungeons and raiding. I'm an eye level 859 Beastmaster Hunter. I've managed to do most mythic dungeons on their respective quests, but I'm now stuck at a couple of quests in the main quest line that require running Karazhan, as well as raid on normal difficulty, also known as LFR, won't work."
I will say, though, that the part of the quest line that you're talking about where you can only complete it on normal difficulty, that's not actually main storyline. It seems like it is because Caligos comes to your order hall and says, like, oh, we can, unlock more power of your artifact weapon, blah, blah, blah. But it's not actually, it's just another appearance. So it's meant as basically transmog for people who complete the Emerald Nightmare on normal difficulty. So it's not meant for LFR players. It's meant for normal and up raiders.
So what you're saying is it doesn't actually progress the story in any way, shape, or form. Very cool. He continued saying, obviously the custom group finder is very useful for this, but my problem with this is that almost every single custom group for Kara or raiding nowadays all have gear requirements around eye level 870 and up, which as far as I know isn't even possible to reach without actually doing a lot of raiding to begin with. And they all require that you link achievement or have a keystone or something to prove that you've already done it before. While it certainly is possible to find a custom group of noobs to run Karazhan with, spending hours on trying to get a group together really isn't my idea of fun gameplay, and most days I don't even have the time for it. Questing is my favorite activity in WoW, and I really want nothing more than to finish the main quest lines and see where the story goes, and it really bums me out that I'm stuck in this catch-22. I ended up just focusing on pet battles lately instead, while those main quests still sit there in my quest log, taunting me. I guess I should maybe find a social and active guild or something, or do you have any other tips for me? I'm feeling stuck and it's ruining my WoW experience. Well,
I would say that finding an active guild is probably your first step. And I think that doing so in Group Finder is not a good way to do it, only because they tend to be very strict with their item level requirements. And if that's one of the problems that you're finding, even finding a Kara run, it's probably going to be really difficult to find a guild. But you probably have a really good idea of what guilds are running on your server just from running around places like Dalaran. So if a large guild is something that you're looking for, then maybe look for the one that you see the most people running around with, like enable your titles on your nameplates and see what guilds people are a part of. And then if you see the same guild name repeated over and over again, maybe reach out to them and see if they're recruiting for new members. Or if you want a smaller guild, just, usually you can tell a lot about the way that a guild is run and their attitude towards the game strictly by the name that they give their guild. So if you want, there's a guild running around that's like Poopy McGank Pants, that's not your playstyle and you don't want to join that guild. But if there's one that's called Puppies and Rainbows and Unicorns, you might be like, hey, they sound like my kind of people.
This is so not how I make any decision about guild joining. I love it. You're so off base from me. It's hilarious. It's just like, well, I just look at their name and I take it at face value.
Well, I mean, and so basically, Garrett and I are a little bit spoiled because we are part of the Frog Pants and AIE community. And so our kind of guild choice is almost automatic. Like anytime we create new characters, we go into either Convert to Raid, which is the Alliance side, or AIE, which is the Horde side. They're not technically the same. They're not run by the same people, but they're almost like friend guilds. There's a lot of people who have characters in both.
Frenemies.
What?
Frenemies.
Frenemies? No, we're on different servers very specifically so that we don't actually fight. But yeah, there's room in Horde or Alliance in those two guilds for sure. But yeah, I think finding a guild and finding other people, like-minded people to run with is really important. And like we've said multiple times on this show before, if you are interested, Convert to Raid and AIE are always recruiting, always growing, always welcoming to everybody. And since they're welcoming to everybody, they have people all around the world. So even though you're in the EU, technically your character would have to be on NA servers. But there will be people playing during whenever time you are playing. But if you're looking for something without actually, transferring characters or dealing with any of that kind of stuff, then I really do think that you should just take a look around Dalaran and see who is actively playing when you're actively playing and what their guild names are and approach them that way. And also, when you are approaching a new guild, in some of the smaller ones, make sure that you are really upfront and honest about, like how many hours and how often you play and what your goals are. Do you want a PvP? Do you want a PvE? Are you just looking for a group that runs Kara, or are you more serious in raiding, or do you like dungeons? And if you say, questing is your favorite activity, then you're probably not going to be as active in those raid positions, but maybe you can be an alternate or something. Just be really upfront with them about how it is you play the game so that you make sure that you're a good fit, and don't be upset if they're like, oh, that's not what we're looking for, because, there are some guilds that their entire point is to, PvP or to try to get server first on some of these mythic raid achievements. So don't take it to heart if they decide they don't want you. But yeah, that's, I think, my advice.
I think it's well spoken. I think you're at a point now where you have to dive into the social aspect of an MMO, and you need to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there. I've had to find my people multiple times. So, and I am very, very spoiled now, because AIE is just like, cool, it's de facto. Yeah, I'm here. And there's a million other people to play with.
Yep, exactly. I think we are definitely spoiled by our experience within AIE and within Convert to Raid, just because there are so many like-minded people. And there's basically, like, I go into guild chat and I say, hey, I'm looking to do blah. And even if people don't need to do it, or they've, in some cases already run the mythic in the week and they're not going to get any loot, there's always someone who's just like, yeah, sure, I'll do that with you.
Sure, why not? Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing.
So, I have yet to basically want to do a piece of content and not been able to find a group in my guild.
Yeah, it's a critical mass thing that we have with that. And that's another option, too. You could find a mega guild. Heck, you can join AIE.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with it. Or
CTR, because, not everyone who listens is Horde, so.
Oh, I know.
I just kind of assume they are, because,
I haven't been Alliance in a while now, so I don't even think about it. But... anyways, enjoy the game, man. And it doesn't sound like you're missing out on nearly as much story as you thought you were.
Yeah, Karazhan is definitely part of the main story of, it was patch 7.1, right? So
Karazhan is the one outlier. That's the one thing. It's like, well, you can't, there's not even LFR, where like, if at least the raids, if you want to see what's happening inside, you can go into an LFR. It's really low committal. And you can just turn off raid chat if, random internet D-bags bothers you that much. So
they bother me that much, so you would not be alone.
Yeah.
But I think, the other thing is, very, very shortly, I believe, is it 7. No, it's 7.2. I thought it was 7.15, but 7.2, Karazhan, as well as Archway and Court of Stars, which are currently mythic only, are actually going to be heroic, which means you're going to be able to queue in for them. So that might help alleviate your problem as well. And I think we're looking at kind of early-ish 2017, probably late February, early March, I think, for patch 7.2. So just keep that in mind, that although, yes, technically that is a big chunk of time in terms of WoW time between now and then, they are putting things into the game which are going to allow you to complete this content on a little bit less of a difficulty, as well as within the tools that are actually available to you right now, which is the Dungeon Finder. So that will be available in 7.2.
Fantastic. Well, Swedish fan called Jonas, thank you for writing in, and good luck finding your guild. Let us know. Tweet at us or send us a follow-up email. That's going to do it for this episode of For Azeroth. As always, we want to thank those of you who are dropping us reviews in the iTunes store. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have sponsors. We ain't got jack. So the best way to help the show out, if you are listening on iTunes, if you are enjoying For Azeroth, is to drop us a 5-star review. It's a new show. We're only 6 episodes deep, and those 5-star reviews help us find new listeners. So this episode, thank you to Boo Nicknames. And Jim drinks coffee.
So does Jocelyn.
I hope you drink something other than coffee. I hope it's not your exclusive liquid of choice. But as always, subscribe to For Azeroth on iTunes. Find us on youtube.com/amovetv. And catch us live Monday mornings. Well, for most people, except us, it's technically afternoon because as we recorded at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/amovetv. And you can also catch it on alphageekmedia.com. Joss, where can folks find your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. That's JOCE Plays. You can also find links to everything I do at jossplays.com, as well as you can catch me on Wednesday nights right here on twitch.tv/amovetv for my general gaming podcast, The Gamers Inn.
Awesome. Yeah, you can find all my work on amove.tv, including this show, including Embrace of Spoilers with Jocelyn and I, which are only 2 episodes left because there are only 2 episodes of Westworld left, and everything else. amove.tv. Check it out. And you can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art. 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. Everyone forgets a second T. That's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, for Azeroth.
I literally almost said job's done.
It technically is.
Yeah, and technically that is a Warcraft thing.
It came from Warcraft first. From Warcraft first.
My coffee's empty. Oh. Sad pout face.
Just do this, like a human crafting something, and you'll make more coffee.
Yeah.